If money could heal a broken heart, then Mr. Desmond Blake should have been the happiest man alive. After all, he was the kind of billionaire people in Lagos whispered about with awe and envy. He owned hotels, oil blocks, shipping lines, and even a football club he didn't understand the rules of. Newspapers called him the man with the magic wallet. Politicians courted his favour. Pastors prayed for him to attend their church. But inside his palatial mansion in Lekki Phase 1, the one with marble floors so shiny you could see your insecurities in them, there was sadness money couldn't touch. That sadness lived in a wheelchair. Her name was Bella Blake, his only daughter. Once a ray of sunshine, now a shadow of herself. 5 years ago, a ghastly car accident had snatched away Desmond's wife Claire and left Bella paralyzed from the waist down. Before then, she was the kind of child who could light up an entire street with her laughter. She loved to dance, to run barefoot in the garden, to chase butterflies like she was auditioning for a fairy tale. Now she barely spoke. She just sat quietly by the window, her once bright eyes now carrying the dull glow of someone who had seen too much pain for her age. Desmond had tried everything, and when I say everything, I mean everything. London specialists, Indian surgeons, American therapists. One herbalist from Ibadan who swore on his grandmother's grave that a certain leaf could wake her legs. Desmond paid millions, prayed louder than church members during crossover night, but nothing changed. He bought every machine, every medicine, every miracle. Yet Bella's silence grew thicker than the mansion walls. Until one scorching Sunday afternoon, when fate decided to sneak into the Blake mansion in the most unexpected way, through the gate. Bella sat under her favourite umbrella in the garden, her wheelchair parked beside a small fountain. The gardener had gone inside to fetch water. The nanny was dozing under the mango tree. The whole compound was so quiet that you could hear the leaves gossiping with the wind. Then rustle, crack, plop! A barefoot figure walked through the gate towards Bella. Bella gasped. The intruder scrambled to his feet, brushing leaves from his messy hair. He couldn't have been more than 20. His shirt was hanging by one button, his shorts were 2 sizes too big, and his face carried the "I haven't eaten since last week" look. But his eyes were alive, mischievous, sharp. I didn't mean to enter, please," he said quickly, hands raised like a suspect. "I was just passing in front of your gate, then I noticed the gate was left open. Next thing, I'm here." Bella blinked, saying nothing. The young man frowned playfully. "You no day talk? Ubby you be ghost?" Still silence. He looked around the big compound, whistled softly and muttered, "See house! Even the dogs here go get AC for their kennel." Bella almost smiled. Almost. Then, out of nowhere, the man clapped his hands and said, "Okay, since I don't enter by mistake, make I at least make myself useful." And that was when the drama began. Without warning, he started to dance. Not the kind of dance you see on TikTok, no. This was something else. Chaotic, funny, and absolutely ridiculous. He hopped, twisted, shook his skinny legs, then pretended to faint dramatically. He even started moonwalking, only his version looked more like mud walking. Bella blinked, then her lips trembled. Then, she giggled. The man noticed immediately and pointed at her with a triumphant grin. "Aha! She day laugh! You think say I no go catch you?" Bella tried to hold it in, but it was too late. The laughter burst out of her. Pure, beautiful, unstoppable laughter that echoed across the garden. The man doubled down. He spun like a helicopter, pretended his shoe was on fire, and began chasing imaginary bees. By the time he rolled on the grass shouting, "I surrender!" Bella was laughing so hard she had tears in her eyes. The sound, that sweet musical laughter, floated into the mansion like a miracle. Upstairs, Desmond was in his study, frowning at a business report when he froze. He knew that sound. That laugh he thought he'd never hear again. He jumped up and ran to the balcony. And there, down below, was his daughter laughing in her wheelchair while a ragged barefoot boy danced like his life depended on it. What in God's name? Desmond muttered. Then louder, "Security!" The young man froze mid-dance. Bella's laughter stopped instantly. Within seconds, 2 hefty guards appeared, rushing toward the garden. "Catch that boy!" Desmond barked, his voice echoing. The boy's eyes widened. "Ah! This one don't pass play-o!" He grabbed his torn slipper, darted toward the hedge, and squeezed through like a lizard. Bella shouted, "No, don't hurt him!" But the guards were already too late. The boy had vanished. Desmond stormed into the garden, breathing heavily. "What happened here? Who was that?" he demanded. Bella stared at the gate. "He was funny," she said softly. "He made me laugh." Desmond froze. His eyes softened, the anger melting away. It had been so long since he'd heard that tone, gentle light filled with life. He turned toward the gate again, deep in thought. A random street boy had just done what millions couldn't. But he was gone. His name was Jamie, or so he said. Nobody really knew his last name, or if he even had one. In fact, people weren't sure if Jamie was his real name or one he borrowed from a movie poster he once saw at a mechanic's shop. Jamie was a street boy with dreams bigger than his pockets. The kind of boy Lagos swallowed, but never digested. He slept wherever night caught him, sometimes under the bridge near Third Mainland, sometimes in an abandoned kiosk at Aja Market. His pillow? Empty cement bags. His blanket? The air that smelled like roasted corn and exhaust fumes. Nobody had ever seen his parents, and if he had siblings, they were probably lost somewhere in the city's chaos. But Jamie had one thing that kept him going. Joy. Pure, stubborn joy. When hunger slapped him across the face, he laughed and danced. When bus drivers cursed at him for tapping their side mirrors while begging, he twirled like he was on stage. Dancing was his escape, his rebellion against life's wicked sense of humour. It didn't matter if his stomach was empty, his heart was full of rhythm. That afternoon, Jamie was strolling aimlessly along Lekki Phase 1, a place that, to him, looked like heaven fenced with electric wires. He wasn't supposed to be there, of course. Boys like him were usually chased before they even reached the gate. But fate had a wicked way of playing matchmaker. He noticed something strange. The big silver gate of Mr. Desmond Blake's mansion was slightly open. That day, Bella was outside again. Her nanny had rolled her to her favourite corner in the garden, the one facing the flowers her mother used to love. She sat quietly, her chin resting on her hand, eyes dull like a TV stuck on static, staring at nothing, listening to the sound of her own loneliness. Even the birds avoided singing too loudly near her. It was as though sadness was contagious. Jamie saw her through the open gate. He froze. Something about her silence tugged at his chest. Maybe it was because he'd seen that same emptiness before, in his own reflection on rainy nights. He whispered to himself, "Oh boy, this one needs a little joy therapy." So he slipped through the gate like a whisper and tiptoed into the garden. For a few seconds he just looked at her. Then, without thinking, he jumped forward and began to dance. Not a proper dance, nothing fancy or choreographed. This was pure street madness. He spun around like a faulty ceiling fan, shook his waist like a fish out of water, and made faces that could scare mosquitoes into fasting. He flung his arms wildly, pretending to trip, then caught himself dramatically. At first, Bella just blinked at him. Then a miracle happened, a tiny smile. Jamie noticed it instantly and doubled his effort. He added sound effects with his mouth. Pew, pew! Bam! As if he were an action movie hero fighting invisible enemies. He pretended the flowers were his backup dancers, and at one point he bowed before a butterfly like it was a queen. And then it happened. Bella laughed. Not a shy giggle, not a polite smile, a real deep belly laugh that filled the air and startled even the gardener dozing behind the fence. Jamie froze mid-spin and stared at her, wide-eyed. Then he broke into a grin so wide you could see all 32 teeth, or at least the one still loyal enough to stay. "Aha! She laughed! Mission accomplished!" he shouted, punching the air like he just won a gold medal. Bella clapped her hands. tears of laughter rolling down her cheeks. And in that moment, something magical happened. Two broken souls found healing in laughter. For those few minutes, Jamie forgot that he was barefoot, hungry, and unwanted. He wasn't a street boy anymore. He was a hero, a magician who had brought light to a dark heart. Bella, too, forgot her pain. She wasn't the girl in the wheelchair. She was just Bella, a girl laughing so hard her stomach hurt. And that was when Desmond Blake saw him and everything changed. When Mr. Desmond Blake stormed into his garden that afternoon, his face looked like thunder about to strike. The security men followed behind him, sweating bullets, because the look on his face alone could fire an entire company. "Who opened this gate?" he barked. "How did a random street boy walk in here like he owns the place?" Nobody answered. The gardener pretended to be adjusting flowers that didn't even exist. The nanny suddenly found her shoelace extremely interesting. Desmond's jaw tightened. His fists clenched so hard you'd think he was about to punch the air. He paced around, muttering under his breath. "In my own mansion? On Bordeaux Road? A barefoot boy just strolls in like it's his backyard barbecue?" But then, something stopped him. The garden still carried the faint echo of Bella's laughter. It was light, pure, and full of life, the kind of laughter he hadn't heard in months. He turned and saw her sitting in her wheelchair, her cheeks flushed with joy, her hands still trembling slightly from clapping too hard. She was glowing. Her eyes had that old sparkle again, the one he thought was gone forever. His anger froze mid-air. For months, Desmond had spent millions chasing miracles, flying doctors from Germany, begging specialists from India, trying every therapy money could buy. But none of it worked. Bella remained locked inside her silence, her spirit shrinking a little more each day. And now, in less than 10 minutes, some barefoot boy had done what his billions couldn't. He made her laugh. Desmond didn't understand it. He didn't even like it. How could a street boy succeed where the world's best doctors failed? But even his pride couldn't argue with what his eyes saw. Bella looked up, her eyes glistening. "Daddy?" she whispered, tears rolling down her face. "Please, that boy makes me happy." Desmond's throat tightened. For a second he wanted to shout that she was being naive, but the way she said happy, it wasn't a word. It was a prayer. "Gods!" he barked suddenly, turning away before she saw the emotion on his face. "Find that boy! Now! Bring him to me!" The guards scattered instantly like chickens seeing pepper. Hours passed. No one found him. Desmond paced restlessly by the window, glancing at Bella's room every few minutes. When the guards returned empty-handed, he just waved them off silently. That night, Desmond went into Bella's room. She sat by her window, quiet again, tears rolling down her face. "I'll find him," he said softly. "I promise. We'll talk when I do." Bella nodded, but the sparkle was already fading. Desmond sighed and walked out slowly, feeling both foolish and helpless. The next day, by afternoon, while the sun sat lazily on the sky, Jasmine returned. Yes, Jasmine, the same street boy with no shoes and a name that sounded too soft for someone who slept beside broken kiosks. He wasn't sneaking in to steal. He wasn't hungry for food. He was hungry for something else. Purpose. He had spent the night curled up behind a locked shop, his stomach growling louder than a generator. But he woke up smiling. "I'll make her laugh again," he told himself. "If I can make one person forget pain, then maybe I can forget mine too." He slipped quietly through the gate again, same entrance as yesterday, his steps soft and quick. But this time he froze. Bella was already there waiting. She sat by the garden path, hands clasped, eyes bright like a child waiting for her favourite show. "You came back," she exclaimed. Jasmine grinned. "Didn't I promise part 2? He said, lifting his arms dramatically. Bella giggled, ready to clap. But before Jasmine could start his act, a deep voice rolled across the garden like thunder. "I told them to leave the gate open," Desmond said, stepping into view to see if you'd be tempted. "And clearly, you were." Jasmine's grin vanished. He froze on the spot. Ah, he knew that look. the rich man look, the one that comes before a beating, a police call, or a one-way trip to the gutter. He held his breath. "Sir, I can explain." Bella wheeled herself forward quickly. "Daddy, please, don't send him away! Please!" Desmond held up a hand, studying the boy. Now that he saw him up close, the sight hit him hard. The boy's shirt had holes like bullet wounds. His jeans hung loose, barely held by a string. His knees were scratched, his feet rough, but his eyes, they were steady. There was no fear, no arrogance, just honesty. "What's your name?" Desmond asked. "Jasmine, sir." Desmond raised a brow. "Jasmine? You mean like the flower?" "Yes, sir," the boy said, scratching his head shyly. "My mama said just because we're poor doesn't mean our names must sound poor too." Bella snorted a laugh. Even Desmond's lips twitched. "Why did you come into my house?" Desmond asked again. Jasmine swallowed. "I saw her sitting alone yesterday, sir. She looked sad, like me, so I danced. I thought maybe if she laughed, her heart would feel lighter." He paused, looking down. "I didn't come to take anything. I came to give something small, then I can go." The words hit Desmond right in the chest. He blinked, trying to find his voice. "Where do you live?" he asked quietly. "Anywhere," Jasmine shrugged. "Sometimes the bus park, sometimes under the bridge. I dance for small money, or just for myself, so that hunger won't win." Bella's eyes filled with tears. "Daddy, please. He makes me happy." Desmond looked at her, and then his breath caught. Her toes moved, just slightly, but enough to make him gasp. He crouched beside her chair. "Bella, did you feel that?" She looked down, wide-eyed. "Daddy, I think I moved." Desmond turned away quickly, blinking back tears he'd rather die than admit. He straightened up, cleared his throat, and said in his usual deep tone, "All right, you can stay for today. Out here. Oh, no misbehaviour. You hear me?" "Yes, sir," Jasmine said eagerly. He turned to Bella. "Shall we begin?" he asked with a grin. Bella clapped. "Showtime!" And just like that, the garden became a mini theatre again. One day became two. Two became a week, then a month. Every afternoon by 4, Jasmine came in through the gate. No longer sneaking, now expected. Desmond even gave an order, open quote, "Let him in at 4, he leaves at 6, and make sure he eats before he goes," close quote. Jasmine arrived each day with new tricks. He danced, told stories about the bus park, acted like Danfo drivers arguing over 100 change, and even pretended to faint dramatically whenever Bella teased him. The laughter returned to the mansion, loud, unstoppable, contagious. Bella's arms grew stronger from clapping. She started mimicking Jasmine's hand movements. Sometimes she spun her wheelchair in small circles whenever he danced. Desmond watched from his balcony, silent but amazed. Every movement, every laugh was a miracle. He noticed things. How Jasmine never asked for money, how he always checked Bella's mood before performing, how he never rushed his food, eating slowly, like someone who understood what it meant to eat only once a day. And at night, Bella wouldn't stop talking. Open quote, "Daddy, did you see when he acted like a police siren? Daddy, today I felt something in my legs. Daddy, can he come tomorrow?" Close quote. When Desmond took her to the hospital for a checkup, the doctor could hardly believe what he saw. "This is remarkable," the doctor said. "Her muscles are responding again. Whatever you're doing, Mr. Blake, don't stop." Desmond smiled faintly. "It's not me, doctor. It's Jasmine." The doctor frowned. "Jasmine? The therapist?" Desmond chuckled softly. "No, the boy who dances barefoot." That night, Mr. Desmond Blake stood alone in his enormous garden. The same garden that once echoed only silence and sadness. The same space where the poor street boy had danced like he was born with music in his veins. Now it was quiet again, but not the sad kind of quiet. This was the peaceful kind. The kind that made Desmond feel something he hadn't felt in a long, long time. Not pride, not power, not the shallow peace that came from signing million-dollar deals. Something else. Something like gratitude. He looked up at the stars and whispered into the night breeze, "Thank you, boy." No one was there to hear it. Not the guards, not the maids, not even Bella. But somehow it felt like the entire garden heard him. Even the leaves rustled like they agreed. And the next afternoon came like any other Lagos afternoon, hot, lazy, and bright enough to melt anyone's patience. The gardener's radio was playing one of those old-school high-life songs that made even mosquitoes want to dance. Jasmine, the boy from the street, was in full performance mode. He was doing that weird, slow-motion dance of his, moving as if time itself was dragging him by the leg. His face was serious, his body dramatic, his steps ridiculous. Bella laughed so hard her head tilted back, her hair shaking like palm fronds in a storm. Wait, she gasped between giggles. Let me try something. Jasmine stopped mid-spin, curious. Desmond, who had been pretending to read a newspaper nearby, lowered it just enough to peek. Bella placed both her hands on the armrest of her wheelchair, her lips pressed tight, her face tense like she was about to fight a lion. For a moment, nothing happened. Not a twitch, not a sound. Then her shoulders moved, then her chest. Then slowly, painfully, like a miracle rehearsing itself, her hips lifted, just an inch, then 2. Jasmine froze. Desmond dropped the paper. 1, Jasmine whispered, eyes wide. 2, Desmond counted softly, his voice trembling. 3, Bella breathed, holding herself upright for 3 beautiful, impossible seconds before falling back into the chair. The whole garden went quiet, not the sad silence it used to have, the one filled with pity and regret. This was a holy silence, the kind that makes even the air hold its breath, because something divine just happened. Then Jasmine exploded with excitement. "You did it! You actually did it!" he shouted, spinning 3 times like a lunatic before kneeling beside her. "You're a champion!" Desmond knelt too, tears he didn't plan for filling his eyes. He touched Bella's head lightly. "You're stronger than I thought," he whispered. "I'm so proud of you." Bella, still panting but smiling, reached out her hands, one to her father, the other to her new friend. "When he dances," she said softly, "I feel like I can move." That broke Desmond's heart in the best way possible. They didn't announce it to the world. There were no cameras, no press, no proud billionaire speech about hope and healing. They just kept it simple. Every day, Jasmine showed up with new madness. One day, he was a Danfo conductor shouting, "Oshodi, one chance." The next, he was a market woman fighting over pepper. Bella laughed till she cried, and each laugh seemed to chase her sickness away. Bit by bit, her hands grew stronger from clapping. Her arms got firmer from mimicking Jasmine's dance steps. Even her voice, once soft and uncertain, now carried life. "Daddy, did you see when he pretended to faint?" she'd say every evening. Or, "Daddy, today I felt something in my toes." Or her favourite, "Daddy, can he come tomorrow again?" And Desmond, who used to measure life only in profit and power, found himself measuring it in laughter and leg movements. That night, Desmond couldn't sleep. He wandered through his long marble hallway, the type that made his footsteps sound like church bells. He thought of Bella, her laughter, her smile, her sudden spark of life. Then he thought of Jasmine, a poor boy with nothing but a heart full of joy and a pocket full of nothing. For the first time, Desmond began to question himself. He had bought cars, built houses, and fed half the city. But not once had any of those things brought laughter back into his daughter's voice. Not once. Yet this barefoot boy, who probably slept behind kiosks, had done what all his millions couldn't do. He gave Bella hope. By dawn, Desmond had made peace with something. Maybe, just maybe, wealth wasn't the highest power after all. Maybe kindness was, and for once in his billionaire life, he smiled. Then one quiet Saturday afternoon in the Blake mansion, the kind of afternoon where even the birds seemed to be whispering, the gardener trimmed flowers with exaggerated seriousness, pretending not to stare, and the maids lingered near the curtains with mop buckets that hadn't moved in 15 minutes. Something was brewing in that house. Mr. Desmond Blake sat in the garden under the big almond tree, dressed in his casual white shirt, sipping tea like he was auditioning for a commercial. The sun was warm, the air smelled of hibiscus and expensive perfume, and for once the mansion didn't feel so cold. He turned to Jasmine, who was sitting quietly on the edge of the grass, waiting for his usual showtime signal. But today was different. "Sit down," Desmond said, motioning to the bench across from him. Jasmine blinked, confused. "Sit, sir?" "Not dance?" "Yes, sit," Desmond replied, raising an eyebrow. "I didn't call you to do backflip. Sit before I change my mind." Jasmine obeyed, still unsure what to expect. For the first time, he wasn't there to perform, but to talk. Desmond leaned forward, clasping his hands together. "Tell me about yourself, son." The words hit Jasmine like cold water. Nobody had ever asked that. People only saw his dirty shirt, bare feet, and called him street boy or go away. But the billionaire's tone was calm, not harsh, not pitying, just curious. "I don't really know where I was born," Jasmine began slowly, his eyes down. "My mama died when I was 18. My papa left before that time when my mom was very ill. I came back from school that day to meet her dead body in the old kiosk where we lived. I grew up around the market. The women there used to give me food sometimes, gari, bread, anything. But when I got wiser, they said I was too big to beg, so I started living with other boys at the bus park. We sleep under the bridge or inside shop corridors if the owner forgets to lock up." Desmond listened quietly. His jaw tightened, but his face softened. "Why do you dance?" he asked finally. Jasmine gave a faint smile, the kind that hid pain behind pride. "When you're hungry, everything feels heavy. But if you move, if you dance, it's like you're telling hunger, you can't win today." People laugh, sometimes give me small change, but even when they don't, at least for those few minutes, I don't feel invisible. For a long moment, Desmond said nothing. His mind drifted. He had travelled the world, owned companies, met presidents. Yet this boy, barefoot and hungry, had just said something wiser than most of the people he'd ever met. After a deep breath, he said quietly, "You are not invisible anymore, Jasmine. From today, you're part of this house." The boy's head shot up, eyes wide. He thought he misheard. "Sir?" Before Desmond could reply, Bella rolled her wheelchair closer, smiling so wide it could melt stone. "He means it," she said softly, reaching out to grab Jasmine's hand. "You're family now." That moment was quiet but powerful, like the world paused just to take a picture. The maids watching from the window wiped their eyes. Even the gardener dropped his shears and pretended it was an accident. The following days carried a new kind of joy. Every afternoon, laughter echoed through the Blake compound. Bella's laughter, rich and uncontrollable, mixing with Jasmine's silly sound effects and Desmond's occasional chuckle when he pretended not to enjoy the show. But then came that afternoon. It started like any other. Sunlight spilling through the leaves, Jasmine doing his playful robot dance, while Bella clapped so hard you'd think she was getting paid per clap. Desmond sat on the terrace, pretending to read a newspaper, but not missing a second of the action. Then Bella shouted, "Wait, I want to try something!" Jasmine froze mid-spin. "Try what?" Bella's eyes sparkled with determination. "Standing. I want to try standing." You could have heard a pin drop. Even the birds went silent. Desmond's newspaper slipped from his hand. "Bella," he said carefully, his voice tight. He didn't want to crush her hope, but he also didn't want to see her fall. "I can do it," she said, gripping the armrests of her wheelchair. Just don't help me." Her arms trembled like a leaf in the wind. Her face tightened with effort, sweat gathering on her forehead. Jasmine stood nearby, frozen, whispering under his breath, "Come on, Bella, you can do this." Slowly, painfully slowly, her body began to rise. Her shoulders lifted first, then her back straightened. Her knees quivered like jelly. Then, after what felt like forever, her feet touched the ground. Both of them. She was standing. For the first time in years, Bella Blake stood on her own. The guards at the gate stopped talking. One maid screamed, "Jesus!" from the balcony. Desmond's heart pounded so hard he thought it might burst. Jasmine dropped to his knees, clapping and laughing like a madman. "You did it, Bella! You're standing!" he shouted. Bella's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. That kind of smile that made pain look small. "I'm standing," she whispered, trembling. "Daddy, did you see? I stood!" Desmond rushed forward and knelt beside her, tears rolling freely now. He touched her face, voice cracking. "I saw my baby. I saw, and I have never been prouder." After a few seconds, her legs gave out and she sank gently back into the chair. But instead of sadness, she laughed. A full, beautiful laugh that filled every corner of that mansion. That day, the Blake mansion, once quiet and lifeless, came alive. The staff clapped, Jasmine danced like a mad genius, and Desmond just stood there, smiling through his tears. He finally realized something that money could never buy. That healing didn't always come from hospitals or doctors. Sometimes it came from laughter, from friendship, from a boy who had nothing but a dance and a heart full of joy. And from that day forward, Desmond didn't see Jasmine as a charity case. He saw him as the miracle that money could never afford. Then one night, the Blake mansion was quiet, the kind of quiet that felt heavy, like the air itself was waiting for something to happen. The chandeliers were dim, the guards were whispering in the hallway, and somewhere in the distance the old grandfather clock was ticking like a lazy drummer. Mr. Desmond Blake sat alone in his study, that same oversized office filled with awards, half-read books, and papers that screamed urgent but had been ignored for days. His phone buzzed with new business messages, but for once, the billionaire didn't care. His thoughts were on one person, Jasmine. For weeks, that boy had done what no therapist, no doctor, and no expensive medical expert could do. He had brought his daughter Bella back to life, not physically at first, but emotionally. She was laughing again, eating again, arguing again, even bullying him gently again, like old times. And tonight, she had stood. Even if it was just for a few seconds, Desmond had seen his little girl on her feet again. And that memory alone made his heart ache and dance at the same time. He pushed his chair back slowly, loosened his tie, and decided to find the boy who had changed everything. He found Jasmine sitting on the back steps of the mansion, barefoot, hugging his knees, staring into the dark night like it was his old friend. The boy looked lost, not because he didn't know where he was, but because he couldn't believe he belonged there. Desmond cleared his throat softly. "You shouldn't be out here alone," he said in a calm voice that didn't quite sound like his usual authoritative tone. Jasmine gave a tiny shrug. "I'm used to it, sir." Desmond smiled faintly, shaking his head. "Not anymore, son. Not anymore." Jasmine blinked, confused. "Sir?" Desmond turned to him fully, his voice steady but emotional. "Listen to me carefully. This is your home now. You'll eat 3 times a day. Not whenever luck smiles. You'll go to school, good university. You'll sleep in a real bed, not under any bridge or shop front. You don't have to wonder where you belong again. Not while I'm alive." Jasmine's mouth fell open. His throat tightened, and for a moment he couldn't even find his words. "Thank you, sir," he stammered, voice trembling. Desmond placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "No, Jasmine, I should be the one thanking you. You gave Bella something no amount of money could buy. Hope. And anyone who gives hope is not just useful, they are priceless." The boy looked away, tears running freely now. Nobody had ever told him he mattered before, not even once. That night, for the first time in his 20 years, Jasmine slept in a bed. His bed. He lay under clean sheets that smelled faintly of lavender and peace. The ceiling wasn't concrete, and the air wasn't biting cold. Somewhere, down the hall, Bella was also fast asleep, smiling in her dreams. The night felt like a beginning. By the next morning, the whole city was buzzing. News travels fast when it involves rich people doing strange things. Headlines screamed, "Billionaire Desmond Blake takes street boy into his mansion." Is the business tycoon losing his mind or finding his heart? Social media did what it does best. Half of Lagos was outraged. The other half was touched. Some people said, "Oh, that's beautiful," while others hissed, "I beg, na so these street boys dare use pity enter big man house." Even some of Desmond's business partners couldn't keep quiet. One of them, Mr. Alex, a man who loved money more than air, pulled him aside after a board meeting. "Desmond, my brother, this thing you're doing, it's risky," he whispered. "A street boy in your house? What if he steals? What if he embarrasses you? Think of your image, my guy." Desmond just leaned back, looking at him with a smile that could cut through pride. "My image?" he repeated slowly. "My daughter is walking again, Alex. My daughter is smiling again. That's the only image I care about." Alex had no comeback. He just nodded awkwardly and pretended to check his watch. From that day on, the Blake mansion changed forever. The same home that once echoed with silence now danced with laughter. Every morning, Bella would shout, "Jasmine, come and see what I can do," from her room. By afternoon, the garden would turn into their mini comedy show. Jasmine would perform his silly robot dance while Bella clapped, cheered, and laughed so hard her wheelchair shook. Even the maids started sneaking out to watch. The cook, Madame Rose, who never smiled unless she was paid, now giggled while pretending to water the plants. By evening, the family would eat together, something that hadn't happened in years. Bella would tease her father. "Daddy, you're smiling too much these days. Did someone dash you love potion?" Desmond would laugh, pretending to be serious. "Ah, this girl. If happiness was for sale, I'd say Jasmine brought it free of charge." The neighbours, of course, couldn't mind their business. "Can you imagine? That boy used to dance by the roundabout," one woman whispered during her morning walk. Another replied, "But have you seen Bella lately? She looks alive again." Maybe money isn't everything after all. And through it all, Jasmine remained the same, humble, grateful, and full of life. He didn't care about the fame or the gossip. He only cared about Bella, about dancing, about living. In a city where money ruled and hearts grew cold, one boy's dance had done the impossible. It had brought warmth back to a billionaire's mansion and to the heart of a man who once thought joy could be bought. That night, as Desmond watched from his window, Bella laughing in the garden, Jasmine spinning around her, while Bella whispered softly, "Sometimes God hides angels in rags." And for the first time in a long while, the house slept in peace. It doesn't walk, it flies. And in the Blake mansion, it flew beautifully. Weeks rolled into months, and little by little, Bella Blake, the once fragile girl who couldn't lift her own legs, began to reclaim her strength. The physiotherapists said it was progress. The maids said it was miracle. Desmond said it was God's reminder that not all blessings come wrapped in billions. But Bella herself? She said it was Jasmine. Every therapy session was chaos. The good kind. Whenever Bella took a shaky step, Jasmine would yell like a football commentator, "Ah, my doctor is walking! See balance! See grace!" And if she fell, he'd rush to her with mock drama, shouting, "Madam, you won disgrace your coach. Stand up, jaw! Fine girls don't give up." She'd laugh, roll her eyes and keep trying. Day by day, she went from baby steps to proper strides. The same mansion that once echoed with silence now echoed with laughter, encouragement, and Bella's sarcastic comebacks. Mr. Desmond watched all this with quiet pride. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about board meetings or oil contracts. He was just happy. Sometimes he'd find himself smiling at Jasmine's ridiculous energy and say to himself, "This boy is either a blessing or a small thunderstorm." But deep down, he knew. Jasmine wasn't just a street boy anymore. He was family. He started mentoring him too, teaching him how to handle people, how to think big, how to dream beyond survival. "You have a sharp mind, Jasmine," he once told him. "Don't waste it on dances alone." Jasmine just grinned. "Sir, I can do both. Code in the morning, dance in the night. Balance is key." Desmond laughed so hard that day the staff thought something was wrong. Years later, Everything Desmond prayed for came to pass. Bella Blake, the once broken girl, walked across a graduation stage in her white coat, a full-fledged doctor with a smile bright enough to shame the sun. Beside her, Jasmine graduated too, this time in a sleek black suit, top of his class as a computer engineer. The boy who once danced for coins now built apps that earned him awards. When Desmond watched them standing together that day, his daughter and the boy he once found by chance, his heart swelled so much it nearly burst his chest. He stood up in the crowd and clapped so loud that Bella covered her face in embarrassment. "Daddy! People are staring!" she whispered after the ceremony. Desmond grinned. "Let them stare! They're staring at success!" Life was perfect until that afternoon. It started like an ordinary Saturday. Desmond was on the balcony sipping juice and scrolling through his endless business emails when Bella walked in, hands behind her back, smiling suspiciously. "Daddy, I need to tell you something," she began. Desmond looked up over his glasses. "That tone, is it about money or a man?" Bella laughed nervously. "Both, kind of." "Ah!" Desmond dropped his phone. "I knew it! Continue before I faint." She inhaled deeply, then blurted out, "Daddy, I love Jasmine, and I want to marry him." The world paused. Even the birds in the garden seemed to hold their breath. Desmond blinked, once, twice, then stared into space like a man trying to reboot his brain. Wait, he said slowly. "You mean my Jasmine? The same Jasmine that used to steal extra meat from the kitchen?" Bella folded her arms. "Yes, your Jasmine, the same one who gave me back my legs, my laughter, and my life." Desmond leaned back, sighed dramatically, and muttered, "I should have known this boy was dancing into my heart, soul, and spirit, not just my family, not just my house." Bella chuckled. "Daddy, please, say yes." He stayed quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Finally, he said softly, "Bella, do you truly love him?" "With all my heart," she replied. "He was there when I was broken. He never saw my wheelchair, only me." Desmond exhaled, a deep, heavy sigh of surrender. Then who am I to stand against that kind of love? He stood, walked to the window and whispered more to himself than to her. Maybe God didn't just send Jasmine for your healing. Maybe he sent him for our home. Then he turned back with a small smile and said, "All right, you both have my blessing. Just make sure that boy doesn't hack my bank account as wedding gift." Bella laughed, screamed in excitement, and ran to hug him tight. "Thank you, Daddy!" The wedding that followed was nothing short of magical. The same mansion that once held sorrow now held joy too loud to contain. Jasmine looked sharp in his black tuxedo, tears in his eyes as he watched Bella, radiant in her white dress, walking toward him without her wheelchair. Desmond stood by, wiping his face discreetly with a handkerchief, muttering, "Men don't cry! I beg, who's cutting onions here?" When the priest said, "You may now kiss the bride," Jasmine smiled at Bella and whispered, "You'll always be my miracle." And as they kissed, the guests cheered, the maids cried, and Desmond, the once cold billionaire, raised his glass and said with a proud grin, "To love, the kind you can't buy." And just like that, the story of Bella and Jasmine became one of the city's favourite tales, how a billionaire's daughter found her feet, her voice, and her forever love in the same boy who once danced on the streets just to stay alive. Hello, my beloved besties. What a beautiful journey, right? From the streets to the mansion, from pain to purpose, from hopelessness to true love, Bella and Jasmine's story shows that destiny doesn't check your background before it blesses you. Moral lesson: never look down on anyone because of where they are today. The same person you ignore might be the one God has sent to lift you tomorrow. And remember, money can buy comfort, but it can't buy kindness. Sometimes the richest hearts wear the poorest clothes. If this story touched your heart, my beloved besties, don't just scroll away. Show some love sometimes. Like this video, drop a comment in your own language, tell me your favourite moment, and of course subscribe so you don't miss the next emotional story that will make you smile, cry, and believe in love again. Until next time, besties, keep dancing through life like Jasmine and keep believing like Bella.